Archaeologists have been busy digging all around Egypt and discovering amazing artifacts, mummies, treasures, and more. You'd think they'd found it all, but it looks like scientists haven't even come close to unraveling the secrets of the country's mysterious history. They've uncovered the bodies of unknown queens, mysterious lands, and actually mummy portraits of people long dead. There's no end to what we can learn about Egypt's past, so if you'd like to learn more about the discoveries that have intrigued scientists all over the world, let's get into it right away. The Book of Thoth was named after the Egyptian god Thoth and dates back to the Greco-Roman period. He was the moon's god as well as the god of wisdom, writing, hieroglyphs, science, magic, art, and judgment. If you haven't heard of him, it's possible that you've heard of his Greek counterpart, Hermes. Well, the Temple of Thoth was mostly destroyed before the Christian era began, but its massive pronaos was still standing in 1826, so we know it existed. Thoth was one of the two deities, the other being Ma'at, who stood on either side of Ra's solar bark and played many important and prominent roles in Egyptian mythology, one of which was maintaining the universe. In later Egyptian history, Thoth became strongly associated with the resolution of divine disputes, the arts of magic, the writing system, and the judgment of the dead. The Egyptians kept many texts on a variety of subjects in houses of life, which were libraries housed within temple complexes. Because Thoth was the god of knowledge, many of these texts were believed to have been his. According to the Egyptian historian Manetho, Thoth wrote 36,525 books. The church father Clement of Alexandria, in the 6th book of his work Stromata, mentions 42 books used by Egyptian priests that he says contain the whole philosophy of the Egyptians. According to Clement, Hermes wrote all of these books. The Greeks believed that they were the same god because of having similar qualities, such as inventing writing. But because the translation from Egyptian to Greek language and concepts was not completely accurate, some Egyptian authenticity was lost. The fictional Book of Thoth appeared in Setna I, an ancient Egyptian short story from the Ptolemaic period. Thoth's book contains two spells, one of which allows the reader to understand animal speech and the other which allows the reader to perceive the gods themselves. According to legend, the book was originally hidden near Koptos at the bottom of the Nile, where it was locked inside a series of boxes guarded by serpents. The Egyptian prince Neferkaptah fought the serpents and obtained the book, but the gods killed his wife Arwer and son Merab as punishment for his theft. This led Neferkaptah to kill himself and be buried with the book. Sennacherib, a character based on the historical prince Kamwaset, then steals the book from Neferkaptah's tomb generations later, despite opposition from Neferkaptah's ghost. Setna is then seduced by a beautiful woman into killing his children and humiliating himself in front of the pharaoh, so he returns the book to Neferkaptah's tomb in fear of further retribution after discovering that this episode was an illusion created by Neferkaptah. Setna also finds the bodies of Neferkaptah's wife and son and buries them in Neferkaptah's tomb, which is then sealed at Neferkaptah's request. The story reflects the Egyptian belief that the knowledge of the gods is not intended for humans to possess, but it also made the search for the Book of Thoth even more intriguing. Could it really exist underneath the Nile? Isn't there usually some truth to all the fairy tales at the end of the day? Since then, the Book of Thoth has appeared frequently in works of fiction with Egyptian or supernatural themes. Sadly, we are yet to stumble upon its location just yet, but scientists are working on it. And while they may have yet to come across the mythical book, they've discovered something extraordinary about the river itself. The Nile River was considered the source of all life by the ancient Egyptians. For millions of years, the river's steady northward flow has nourished the fertile valleys of northeast Africa, shaping the course of human civilization. Because long-lived rivers usually move over time, the Nile's unchanging path has been a geologic mystery. The flow of the river has been linked to the movement of rock in the Earth's deep mantle, according to researchers at the University of Texas at Austin. During their investigation, they discovered something incredible. It turns out that the Eternal River was much older than previously thought, with scientists estimating the age of the Nile to be 30 million years, roughly 6 times as long as previously thought. The study, published in November in the journal Nature Geoscience, discovered that if it weren't for mantle movement keeping the river on course, the Nile would have turned west long ago and completely changed the course of history with it. The lead author, Claudio Facchena, a professor at the University of Tennessee Jackson School of Geosciences, stated that when the Nile came into existence and how it survived for so long were some really important questions that they wanted to be answered, so of course their discovery was exciting. The findings should put an end to a long-running debate about the river's age and show that the slow movement of the deep mantle is one of the key forces shaping our planet's landscape and geological processes. The mantle of the Earth is made up of solid rock that flows like a fluid over long periods of time. Different areas of the mantle have different circulation patterns, similar to ocean currents. The researchers linked the Nile's tilted topography to a conveyor belt of mantle rock pushing up against the Ethiopian highlands in the south and pulling the surface down in the north. The paper also explained how the gentle gradient kept the Nile on a consistent northward course from start to finish. The study involves studying ancient volcanic rock in the Ethiopian highlands, relating it with massive deposits of river sediment buried beneath the Nile Delta to trace the Nile's geological history. This revealed to the researchers that, after rising dramatically, the Ethiopian highlands have remained at a similar height for millions of years, which they attribute to mantle rock support from below. And while this is intriguing, scientists have been getting close to learning about another mysterious location, commonly known as the Land of Punt. Have you ever wondered where you would go to find a gift for the pharaoh who has everything? Well, the ancient Egyptians were well aware that lavish goods were available in Punt. In this mysterious, far-flung land, a pharaoh could obtain all the gold, frankincense, and myrrh he desired. He could even throw in a baboon or two to round out the package. Scientists have long known about Punt, an ancient Egyptian trading partner who supplied Egyptians with valuable jewels, spices, ivory, and animals. However, hieroglyphic texts are frustratingly vague about the location of this extraordinary land, making the search for Punt one of Egyptology's unsolved mysteries. But finally, we may be getting close to a precise location. Surprisingly, the conclusive evidence is not a recently discovered ancient map. Instead, it comes straight from the mouth of one of Punt's baboons. To conduct their research, Domini and his team examined baboon mummies found in ancient Egyptian tombs and compared the strontium compositions in their bones, hair, and teeth to those found in baboons living in different parts of Africa. This helped shed light on the ancient baboons' origins. While some were most likely raised in captivity in Egypt, others were born in modern Ethiopia, Eritrea, Djibouti, Somalia, and Yemen, areas previously identified as potential locations for the Land of Punt. Domini's research contributes to a better understanding of the ancient trade routes that shaped political fortunes for millennia. It also emphasizes the importance of additional archaeological research in Eritrea and Somalia, both of which are currently understudied. Who knows what answers could be found there? The ancient Egyptians began sailing to Punt around 4,500 years ago and visited the land infrequently for the next 1,300 years. Egyptians could trade their grain, linen, and other goods in Punt for aromatics, hardwoods, and other exotic goods that were difficult or impossible to find in Egypt. In fact, some scholars consider the Egypt-Punt trade relationship to be the birthplace of international peaceful commerce, so of course getting closer to its location is a big deal. Now, the Land of Punt may yet to be discovered, but there's no shortage of discoveries available in the country. Only recently, a pyramid of an unknown queen was discovered near King Tut's tomb. This is shocking because King Tut's tomb was discovered a century ago. But even today, archaeologists discovered several coffins, mummies, artifacts, and the pyramid of a previously unknown ancient Egyptian queen. According to Egyptologist Zahi Hawass, Egypt's former state minister for antiquities, the team discovered her name was Neith, although she has yet to appear in the historical record. As a result, more research will be required to learn about her rule and story. Archaeologists had been excavating in Saqqara, about 20 miles south of Cairo. The recently discovered cache of coffins and mummies may have belonged to King Tutankhamun's closest advisors and generals. The boy pharaoh ruled from around 1333 BCE until his death in 1323 BCE, and the discovery of his untouched pyramid in 1922 made international headlines. The team also looked at a nearby pyramid that belonged to Teti, the first king of Egypt's 6th dynasty. In the New Kingdom, Teti was worshipped as a god, and everyone wanted to be buried alongside him, Hawass told NBC News. The team discovered nearly 300 coffins near his pyramid, many of which were in good condition. According to Hawass, the majority of the previously known burials in this area were from either the Old Kingdom or the late period in Egyptian history. The New Kingdom, also known as the Egyptian Empire, lasted from the 11th to the 6th centuries BCE. And the discoveries at Saqqara may only be the beginning. Hawass truly believes that this site will be the most important site in Egypt and may reveal even more discoveries over the course of the next few years. Egypt continues to be full of mysteries and puzzles. This time, it involves a puzzling tunnel. A tunnel was discovered 43 feet below ground by Kathleen Martinez at the University of Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic and her team as they continued their continuous study and excavation of a temple beneath the historic city of Osiris Magna on the Egyptian shore. The roughly 6-foot-tall tunnel had been carved out of sandstone that was 4,281 feet thick. The design was dubbed a geometric wonder by the team. According to the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, the design is reminiscent of the Greek tunnel of Eupalinos, an aqueduct on the island of Samos built in the 6th century BCE. The Osiris Magna tunnel's purpose is still unknown, and some of it is submerged in water. Martinez thinks the tunnel would be a promising lead in her 18-year quest to find the renowned Cleopatra VII's hidden tomb. A few hints from earlier excavations in the vicinity indicate the illustrious queen and final member of the Ptolemaic dynasty who governed Egypt from 51 BCE until she died in 30 BCE. According to the team, Osiris and his queen, the goddess Isis, was honored in the temple in Osiris Magna. Isis is the goddess who is closely associated with Cleopatra, and in addition to figurines of Isis, coins with the names and likenesses of both Cleopatra and Alexander the Great have also been discovered in the region. But tunnels aside, there are more unique findings that have caught the attention of researchers. Zeus might be mystical lore to many, but back in the day, he was a revered god to most. The Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities stated on April 25, 2022, that archaeologists in Egypt had discovered the ruins of an ancient temple built to venerate Zeus Cassios, a god who combined the characteristics of both Zeus and the weather god Cassios. The remains were found at the Tel al-Farama archaeological site on the Sinai Peninsula's northwest coast. This region was known as Pelusium, a city and a harbor during the Greco-Roman era, that is 332 BC to AD 395. Pelusium was located at the extreme eastern mouth of the Nile River. According to a 2010 research paper presented at the Sinai International Conference for Geology and Development, people used Pelusium for a variety of purposes due to its strategic location, including as a fortress during the time of the Egyptian pharaohs, and artifacts dating to the Greco-Roman, Byzantine, Christian, and Islamic periods suggest it was in use in a variety of ways then as well. Mustafa Waziri, Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities, said in the statement that after excavating around the ruins of 2 pink granite columns lying on the ground's surface, the archaeological team focused on the temple. When a powerful earthquake shook the city in the past, these columns that originally formed the temple's front gate crumbled. It has been suspected by researchers for many years that the location once housed a Zeus Cassios temple. According to the 2010 report, archaeologists determined that the granite columns were most likely transported on boats by way of the Nile from Aswan in southern Egypt to Pelusium. Additionally, Greek inscriptions discovered at the location by the late French Egyptologist Jean Cladet suggest that a temple dedicated to Zeus Cassios was once there during the Greco-Roman era. Although the location is next to a church and an old fort, archaeologists have never conducted a formal dig there. Of course, while deciphering complex Greek inscriptions whiles away the time of many, unique mummy portraits are another mystery to behold. According to a new statement from the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, archaeologists excavating in the Fayum region of Egypt uncovered a series of exceptionally rare mummy portraits. The pictures were discovered on coffins in a sizable catacomb-style underground funeral structure that belonged to a cemetery at the Gerza archaeological site and was built during the Ptolemaic and Roman eras. Mummy portraits are intricate works of art that were created while the subject was still alive. According to an article, they originated in Egypt during the Greco-Roman era, roughly between the 1st century BCE and the 1st century CE, were typically painted on wood. According to Dr. Gehad Bassem, the director of the mission, the discovered images were affixed to a variety of coffins with various designs, some of which were constructed to resemble people and others with gabled roofs in the Greek style. The realism and beauty of the paintings are well renowned. Researchers were even able to identify neurological illnesses using details from the paintings, which they then confirmed by looking at the relevant corpses. Jewelry and other objects that were later discovered on the mummy's body and depicted in other portraits. The discovery's significance was emphasized by Dr. Adel Okasha, head of the Central Department of Egyptian Antiquities in Central Egypt. The last mummy pictures were discovered more than a century ago by the renowned English archaeologist Sir Flinders Petrie while conducting excavations in the Fayum region, according to Dr. Okasha. But safe to say, another interesting find will keep Dr. Adel wondering about its significance. The case of gold tongues is now plaguing the minds of researchers. When Egyptian archaeologists discovered numerous ancient mummies with solid gold tongues in their mouths, they made a remarkable discovery. Nearly 40 miles north of Cairo in the center of the Nile Delta is the Quaizna necropolis where the find was made. The estimated dates for the preserved bodies range from 300 to 640 BCE. According to a news release from Dr. Mustafa Waziri, Secretary General of the Supreme Council for Archaeology, experts examining tombs at the location discovered many mummies with gold chips resembling human tongues in their mouths. Experts speculate that the solid gold tongues may have originated due to the ancient Egyptians' belief that the dead could communicate with Osiris, known as the Lord of the Underworld, and this belief may have led to the replacement of the original organ with the gold one. After the Quaizna necropolis was found in 1989, several rounds of excavations followed, revealing a wealth of knowledge about the ancient civilizations. Waziri claims that the bones of several mummies that were found in poor condition had gold coatings right beneath the linen wraps that were used to mummify them. The ruins of human-shaped wooden coffins, pottery, glues, and tar used in embalming, gold chips fashioned into scarab beetles and lotus flowers, many coppered nails, and embalming materials were all discovered at the ancient cemetery. According to Dr. Ayman Ashmawi, head of the Egyptian archaeological sector at the Supreme Council of Archaeology, each burial level reveals fresh information about the various rites and techniques used to bury the mummies. The newly discovered addition to the ancient cemetery is where the golden-tongued mummies were located. 3 different historical eras worth of bodies were interred in the old cemetery. But while this is a case yet to be fully understood, Egypt's mysteriously discovered Falcon Shrine confounds archaeologists. Archaeologists are baffled by an ancient falcon shrine at Berenike, an ancient port city in Egypt, with its headless falcons, unidentified gods, and a strange message that reads, "It is prohibited to boil a head in here." A 1700-year-old falcon shrine complete with the remains of 15 decapitated falcons on a pedestal and a stone monument portraying 2 unidentified gods have both been found by archaeologists in Egypt. The shrine and monument were reported in a study that appeared in the October issue of the American Journal of Archaeology. Berenike was an ancient Egyptian port on the Red Sea. According to the analysis, an iron harpoon that is around 13 inches, 34 centimeters long was discovered close to the pedestal. David Frankfurter, a professor of religion at Boston University who was not engaged in the excavation, gives his 2 cents. The decapitation of the falcons appears to be a native gesture of completing a love offering to the god of the shrine. That much we already know about rituals and sacrifices. Frankfurter made this statement in an email to Live Science. When an animal is sacrificed alive, there is typically some form of slaughter or bloodletting done to demonstrate the devotee's fervor. Archaeologists also discovered a stela or pillar with the Greek inscription, "It is improper to boil a head in here," in another area of the sanctuary. However, the reasons behind the decapitation of the falcons, the placement of a stela forbidding the boiling of heads in the room, and the placement of a harpoon close to the falcons are all yet unknown. The 15 headless falcons could have been sacrificed to the gods, especially the one with the falcon head, according to one theory. The researchers hypothesized that the harpoon might have also been an offering. The scientists stated in their study that they believe the sacrificed animals' heads were removed following the instructions on the stela and that they were cooked before offering them to the god, maybe to make it easier to pluck their feathers. But to add now to the already confusing sacrifices, Tattoos were discovered on Egyptian mummies. Lower back tattoos might appear to be an early 21st century craze made popular by celebrities wearing low-rise jeans, but new archaeological data from Egyptian mummies reveals the tradition dates back more than 3 millennia. Researchers Anne Austin and Marie-Lise Arnett have found that tattoos on ancient flesh and tattooed figurines from the site are likely connected with the ancient Egyptian god Bes. To refresh your history about her, she was the god who protected women and children, particularly during childbirth. She was most followed in the New Kingdom site of Deir el-Medina back in 1550 BC to 1070 BC. Their research was published in the Journal of Egyptian Archaeology last month. On the western bank of the Nile next to the Luxor archaeological complex is Deir el-Medina. The site was explored by a French team starting in 1922, about the time King Tut's tomb was discovered. Known as Set Ma'at, or Place of Truth, during the New Kingdom era, this planned city was a sizable neighborhood with lovely gridded streets and homes for the laborers, who would usually be tasked with constructing tombs for the Egyptian pharaohs. Women and kids resided in the town of Deir el-Medina while the men were away working on the tombs for days at a time. The so-called Great Pit, a prehistoric waste filled with papyrus letters, invoices and pay stubs that have helped archaeologists better comprehend everyday life, is a significant aspect of the site. However, there is no mention of tattooing in the Great Pit, thus it was unexpected to find at least 6 tattooed women at Deir el-Medina. Because you need to locate preserved and exposed skin, finding tattoo evidence can be rare and challenging, lead author Anne Austin, an archaeologist at the University of Missouri St. Louis, told Life Science in an email.